Stop the cap.
I've said this many times before, 50 Cent was the love of my life. He was the one that, dang, kind of blew that one. Happens. I was young, had been used to taking care of myself. 50 wanted me to be his princess, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it, so, my fault. But I am so glad to report to everybody that there is peace. We used to go at it publicly. Trust we did.
Did you learn anything from that relationship?
Sure. Let a man be a man. That's the biggest lesson that I learned dating 50 Cent was that when a man wants to take care of you, let him. And my relationship with 50 taught me in the future to always keep my relationships private. That was the biggest problem. We went public way too fast. We were so into each other. It was like, oh, let's let the whole world know we like each other.
I got like 8 videos piled up on top of each other. I got to decide whether I want to post them or not. I'm going to go back and listen to them because usually I get charged and I'm in the moment in making that particular video. And then I think about it a couple days later or a couple hours later. And then I'm like, like, not that my opinion has changed, but it just depends on, sometimes I give it more thought. So I have to go back and see if I keep the same, if my mind right now keeps the same energy as when I made the video. But I listened to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's interview with Dr. Curry, right? Both of them have a middle initial T. Anyway, so listening to him and Dr. Curry in the book about the book, The Man Not. Well, it wasn't about the book, The Man Not. I know that was a book that he wrote years ago, but listening to Dr. T. Curry and talking about the election and talk about institutionalized black misandry, from the academic perspective. I think it's wonderful information for black men to know and be aware of. But, and I don't want to be negative, but one of the things that kind of gets me is this unwillingness to call out black feminists as the enemy. There's this attitude, and I'm saying, when I say black feminists, it's like you got your extreme black feminist, your black feminist in academia, the ones that just, they go out of their way to make sure that black women are victims and black men are, the problem, so that they can try to get tangibles from white zaddy, from the system, from being, platformed, from being given tenure, because, in academia is funded, and what is funded is the type of information that they want to put out. It's not just you go in there and, you're free to have, full creative control over the things that you want to discuss and the things that you want to talk about. And so basically framing things that paint black men in a very negative light, has become, the blame black men industrial complex, or the blame Jamal, it's all Jamal's fault industrial complex. And, I've experienced this myself in my short time, in academia, where, engaging in the black community in Philadelphia and working with some of the people in the schools, when it came to focusing on the boys, it was always girls, girls, girls. We must focus on the girls, because the girls are like better behaved in a classroom. It never made any sense to me, because like, if the boys are failing and then you're talking about, black women have nobody to marry, or there's this idea of a man shortage, and there's criminality in the black community and black men are the ones perpetuating it, you would think that the resources and the focus would go on correcting the boys, but it doesn't. It all gets channeled, to the girls. The idea of making the women strong, independent, go to school, just go to college for the sake of college. There's so many black women that go to college for the sake of college, and then they get themselves into copious amounts of student loan debt, and you come to find out that they majored in, the humanities. You know what I mean? For Harriet, went to school for African American studies. What are you going to do with that? She didn't go off and work anywhere. She became a YouTube personality. Same thing with Aisha K. Faines. So there's this notion of being the educated black woman for the sake of being an educated black woman, but not focusing on things that actually make money so that they can pay back their student loans and actually live the comfortable life that the supposed strong independent black woman is supposed to live. Okay, and in my opinion, a lot of this is directly tied to some of the inferiority complex that black women have, to where since they're not valued in terms of their being a woman or being a beautiful woman, with white standards of beauty, they feel okay, if I go out there and I get the career and get the education and all that stuff, then I'm going to be valued in that regard. The other thing is on that is also another factor is the idea that there are no eligible black men, so I must go out there and get it on my own. And I've talked about this before with the whole black men and black women are literally raised in matriarchy, and what the women are telling the girls is the complete opposite of what they tell the boys. And the boys, they end up going in one or two directions. They either go to the streets or they end up being one of these well-behaved boys that that make it, go to college, everything else. But you know, based off of the promotion in the black community, they're not what black women want. Black women are not moved by those guys, ironically, because even though they went down the same path that black women are encouraged to go down, it's still seen as too Eurocentric. So the only person that's supposed to be educated, sophisticated, engage in excellence and all that is the black woman. And then the black man, he's supposed to be just basically the street thug. But black women claim that they want the men to be, Tupacs with a degree, not because they want black male leadership or because they want to see black men with resources to be able to provide for a family so that they can be a stay-at-home wife, but so that they're not necessarily a leech on the woman, or so that they can contribute to a lifestyle with that woman. But the idea is that she will be leading and guiding the relationship. Now, I think all of this is important to the conversation because you know we hear about the institutional aspect. We hear about how policies are put in place, and don't get me wrong, the policies are important. They're 100% important. But a lot of times we don't like to talk about these interpersonal dynamics, and it's nice to believe that if we could just basically get more resources to black men and then fix the problem with black men being disenfranchised, that everything else would fall in line. And I don't see that. Okay, like what we're dealing with is not only prolonged exposure to poverty, it's prolonged exposure to matriarchy. And so there's a belief system that's tied in. This is why you're faced with so much resistance. Okay, and in my opinion, that resistance comes from the black matriarch. It comes from black feminists. And what I notice is that black men, whether it's Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, or whether it's Dr. Curry, or whether it's Professor Black Truth, or I'd say Black Authority, he'll call it out a lot more. But Professor Black Truth doesn't like to touch it. He's like, oh, the gender war, it's so fake. I cringe every time he says that. I want to throw my goddamn computer. I'm like, motherfucker, it's not fake. This is what it is. It's not something that's all that's been fabricated. Yes, does white supremacy throw gasoline on it? Sure, they do. They did. They most certainly did during this election. But it's not fake. It is a major problem. It's a major problem when it comes to the way that boys are raised. Like one woman was asking me about why is it that the women get raised? Because unlike the men, you all raise black boys. We're not raising black women. So when the boys don't get the guidance or the teachings, or don't have these, you all have full creative control, as I've said numerous times. And the boys come out fucked up. I'm like, they are being raised by you. And much of what you all try to teach, you either try to teach responsibility in a vacuum, or you try to teach, to black boys how to serve black women, and then you frame it in this whole black women are owed. And this is what the feminists, like to roll with, right? The idea that the black women have suffer this sort of collective wrong at the hands of black men, and therefore black men are in the negative, and black men have to fight to get out of the negative, and then they owe black women some sort of debt. And this is done in order to dismantle the idea and the concepts of hierarchies where black women would have to recognize the black man that is in a position to protect and provide or whatever, take care of the family underneath, the patriarchal concept. And so when you create that sort of black men OS type dynamic, then you get to basically facilitate the matriarchy that, black men are untrustworthy. They don't know what they're doing. Even though this brother has resources, I will then, as the black woman, come through and take control of the resources because he owes me and he must worship me and he must, be in line in service to me because that's what a good black man does. And so now you end up with a situation where the black man is the breadwinner. He's making more money, but he is being knighted by the black woman and given his position of responsibility in the household. And this is how it's framed. I just noticed that there's this unwillingness to label black feminists as the enemy. Black feminists that put out this garbage like Bell Hooks, that just say things, Alice Walker, The Color Purple, of black, even people telling me about Margot Jefferson. I did some research on Margot Jefferson about, that she came from like a upper middle class background. You know what I mean? But yet she's up there talking about, woe is the black woman. You know what I'm concerned about? Because people can say the same thing about me about where, my background and whatnot. But my focus is on the slander against black men because that slander hits everybody. That slander hits you, get hit with that shit whether you're from the bottom or not. It just depends on if somebody looks at you and feels threatened. You get hit with that shit or you're not. It's just like this situation out there with Brandon. What's his name? Drewham or Dorham. I forget what his name is exactly. For some reason, I was thinking that this happened in Durham, North Carolina. But anyway, guys, black guy out there in Las Vegas calls 911 because somebody breaks in his house, and so he's naked and they're fighting over a knife in the hallway. The cop shoots him in the face and then stands over him and then shoots him another 5 times. Right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so not only did the dispatch give a description of the burglar with the red hoodie on, and he had the red hoodie all scrunched down like he's freaking Kenny in a South Park, but you go into a house late at night, who do you think is going to be the criminal? The guy with the hoodie on, looking like Kenny, or the guy that's butt ass naked in the hallway? Or I think he had boxers on, right? Which means he was in bed. But you shoot the guy in his underwear, not the guy, with the the hoodie scrunched down. So again, that fear of the black man, you know what I mean? It affects all of us, to the point where, and it was so funny is, you get to all the jokes about, my son, or Obama's son looks like this or looks like that when they were talking about, people wearing hoodies and masks during COVID and whatnot. And then the cop goes in the house and you shoot the guy, not with the hoodie, but the guy in his boxes. Like just nuts. But the slander, people want to talk about, why do I continue to put out content and why do I? It's the fucking slander. And like I said, I was pretty much done with like taking black women seriously once, I had those CDC report statistics about, where all these damn babies are coming from, and 61% of black women are mothers and only 46% of black men are fathers. And when I presented that to black women, when I showed that to black women who pretend like they're on black men's side, all the fucking backlash that I got. I'm like, this is what the CDC, I only respect the information from the CDC. Okay, this is from the CDC. Oh, that's bullshit. And I mean, the way that they went out of their way to try to dispel the idea that they have more babies, or excuse me, there's more mothers in the black community than fathers. And you know why? Because it not only is it a definitive number, but it makes them look like whores. And they want to run around with the idea that they're not only victims of white supremacy, even though they're asking or trying to get favoritism with white supremacy by throwing us underneath the bus, but they're also victims to black men. And a part of the being a victim of black men is not just the what do you want to call it, the black women getting killed. Again, like I told you, that every 5.5 hours, those were COVID numbers. On average, only about 500 black women are killed a year. I know because I did the math. I went and I looked at it. COVID domestic violence went up because of the stress. People are losing their jobs, all that type of stuff. People are stuck inside. They're fighting. That was to be expected. Unfortunate, but it was to be expected. But when you look at the overall number and of black women that are killed, it's like 0.0000000. Like, it's ridiculous. How small of a number it is, but yet somehow that becomes the face of all these that black women, we're the biggest victims. And again, the part of the narrative is this idea that black men are out here and they're just impregnating black women, drive-by ejaculations, and black women are single mothers because black men are just sexually irresponsible and don't care about their kids and don't care about being fathers and whatnot. And again, when I go and I look at the data, you know the black men are fathers to the children they live with. And when you got all this multi-partner family formation, because freaking 42% of the black women underneath the age of 20 are becoming mothers, out of that 61%, which by 24, it's 77.1%, which is almost 80% of the black women who are ever going to be mothers become mothers by the age of 24 years old. So that's what black men are really looking at when they go out here. And again, it takes you about 10 years to really be established to be able to provide for a family. It takes about a decade, 7 years to a decade, if you have any particular career to really to it's for most men. It's not until they get into their 30s that they really start making money. And by the time you get to these women have already had kids. And that never comes up as to why black men are over the. It's just colorism and self hate. It's never because if I want to find a childless woman, I got to step out of the community. Like I said before, even when it comes to well, what about the childless black women? Yes, there are childless black women. 39% of black women are childless, but the number of black men that are childless still, even at 54%, still outstrips the number of childless black women. So if you tried to pair up all the childless black men with all the childless black women, you would still have black men left over, still childless black men left over. And I'm saying it's not like all black men are out here dating interracially. Most black men marry black women, want to be with black women, only date black women. But black women are out here screaming about the 10% of black men that are married over the fence, and the 24% of newlyweds of black males that are marrying over the fence. You see, and so um, they constantly want to be victims, and that whole report about you know that black women have there's more mothers in the black communities than there are black fathers, and the resistance that I saw to that. I mean, they want us to be the top of criminality. They want us to be the top of fatherlessness. You know what I mean? When black men at a higher rate than any other group of men are taking care of stepchildren that don't belong to them. 24% of black men are taking care of stepchildren that don't belong to them, while only 14% of black women are taking care of stepchildren that don't belong to them. And yet this never comes out. Nobody ever talks about. These are the fucking numbers. And what's so crazy is when I talk to black women, when I engage in them online and offline, all they have is just stereotypes and conjecture and feelings and emotions. Like, they literally think that what they believe about black men is solid. But when you go and you look at the data, that's not the case. They're not even in the ballpark. I'm like, actually, you're the one that's fucked up over here. This is not black men. Like, I had a sister that she tried to talk about well, some of those men that are fathers, they're fathers over the fence. And I'm like, I could say the same thing about black women, right? Because we know that being married doesn't tell you about whether somebody's having kids out of wedlock or whatever, or what's going on over the fence. And I don't like the way that Pew Research likes to go around and they like to one drop rule black people. Even the CDC tries to do that. Has at least one black parent. That's a mixed person. What do you mean at least one black? What the fuck is that? Y'all don't categorize that in the white category. How many mixed kids do white women have? Oh, we don't have the data on that. Yeah, so shut the fuck up with the has at least one black parent qualifies as black. Get the fuck out of here with the one drop rule and shit. But anyway, arguing with the sister, she tried to throw the uh, uh, um, she tried to throw up the black men that are over the fence, and I was like, you do realize that would make the numbers worse for you. You do realize that because that would mean that even fewer amount, because we all know that like black women get with black men, the marry black men at like 97%. So I think when it comes to relationships, I don't know what the numbers will be, but we all know that it's going to be probably in the 90 percentile. Okay, I think it's like 12% of black female newlyweds that are going over the fence. Okay, so it's probably going to be in that 90%. But when it comes to black men, right, this is the accusation. Black men are all over the place, out there interracially dating. They interracially date more than anybody and whatnot. So I'm like, so that means that that of that 46% of black men, if we took out going with her argument, if we took out the ones that are over the fence with non-black women, that means an even smaller number of black men are contributing to the 61% of black women being mothers, which even further reinforces the idea that black women are sharing black men, which makes them look even stupider. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, again, we don't have that information. And on top of that, you could have somebody that has one black baby mama and then one white baby mama. What are we going to count them twice? Once a parent, always a parent. We don't have that type of those type of specifics when it comes to this. All we know is we have less fathers in the black community than black mothers in the black community, with the parental gap being 4.3 million. Because black women, 13.4 million black women are mothers, and 9.2 million black men are fathers. That is what we're dealing with. You see, and so when it comes to, and I know like Dr. T. Hassan Johnson doesn't really touch on this, Dr. T. Curry doesn't touch on this. They kind of keep going over the institutional stuff. And again, they're academics, that's their thing. But we got to talk about this interpersonal stuff. Now, Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, he talks about it and has talked about it, like him addressing Umar Johnson. The interview that Umar Johnson had on, like, I think the Wrap Up Crew or something like that. That was an awesome rebuttal and response. But we gotta talk about this whole the framing and the participation of black women who want black men to be, the evildoers, the pariahs, the problem, while they sit over there trying to be the teacher's pet. We have to point that out and have discussions about that more. This is where the rhetoric of the betrayal comes in. The betrayal. And I like the question that Dr. Curry asked, because I've asked the same question. He's the first person to ask that. Do you even want black men to be ahead of you all? Because again, patriarchy is the problem, but then the women turn around and talk about how, well, they're this way and that way because they don't have a patriarchy. Well, do you want it to be corrected or not? Because anytime we talk about the empowerment or the advancement of black men, there's all these objections that fly in the room, which tells me that you really don't want black men to be in that sort of position. And then unfortunately, because you all are sharing men, it's like you can't even like the men that should be the fathers either don't have the capacity or don't have the capability, because these are the men that the women chose and they laid up with, or you have these women sharing dudes. So again, like the situation with Future, 8 baby mamas. That man, even if Future was Johnny Utendall, he could only be in one place at one time, unless he's going to bring all those children underneath one roof. So you end up with this situation where you have all these boys who are disproportionately going without male guidance, and there's not even enough fathers to pair them up with all the women in order for all of the boys to get the proper guidance, even if we were going to correct it. You would have to bring in men that have nothing to do with these boys not having fathers to come in and mentor these young men. That's what you would have to have. So you end up with this situation where like it's like the collective of black men get blamed for some shit that the vast majority, I shouldn't say the vast majority because it's only 54%, but it's over half of black men aren't even participating in that. They're not even participating in parenthood. And yet the parenthood issue in the black community is a black male problem and not a black female problem. It's not a black woman problem. Black women are just victims to the evils of the black male page. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. I mean, this is a betrayal on just a whole nother level. And then the women come through and they play like both sides of the fence. One minute, black women are awesome and feminism and like the stupidity of what you saw with this election, thinking that we done put it into work and we done spent all this time, investing in all these coalitions with all these other people, right? And none of these other people, they were like, we were voting for Trump. And then again, the way that black men were just spit on before the election and then after the election, despite the fact that they disproportionately voted for Kamala Harris. We're called all type of sexist and misogynist. I mean, just way off, just completely off from the truth. And then I don't even like the way that it's being framed currently, where currently it's being framed as, see, black men did support black women. Who the fuck said that if a black man goes off and votes for Kamala Harris, that it was because that black man in particular cared about women's reproductive rights? Like, who said it could have been for multiple reasons? Police brutality, didn't want police immunity, didn't like Trump, had an issue with Charlottesville, didn't like the rhetoric that Trump, has, kind of flamed, white nationalism. It could have been a whole host of reasons. But instead, even after, like, we're being spit on at the same time we're being apologized to, at the same time we're being apologized to, and then it's framed as, well, you all did support who, when did, see, this is the whole problem again. Why should black men vote for Kamala Harris? If listen to what the women are saying. You supported black women. So basically Kamala Harris had nothing in there for black men. How is it you all? Because they've been selling this whole, oh well, like she had an agenda for black men. No, it was if you go and you went to the website and looked at it, it was a agenda for black men and others. When it got to the part about talking about businesses and allocating research, there was nothing specific in there for black men. But look at the way that it's framed. That the people are going to argue that there was something in there specific for black men when there wasn't. But yet, when black women got to come through and apologize to black men, it's all about how we supported their agenda. We supported black women's agenda, which there really was no agenda. They just wanted the symbolism of having a racially ambiguous woman and one drop rule her to death into being the blackest woman in the world. Now she's queen of the blacks. You're right. When any other time, if it was Meghan Markle or if it was, again, the confusion, like I told you, Meghan Markle is she's a black queen. Samantha Gibson, she's a light skinned bitch. Kamala Harris is queen of the blacks. Makes no fucking sense. All these women look like they could be relatives. Okay, this is the conditionalism of black women's bitching about colorism. It just depends on what they think they can get out of it. If Kamala Harris went up there and when Kamala Harris was with Willie Brown, she was a light skinned bitch that was using her light skin privilege to get up the ladder, and no dark skinned woman could do that because these niggas is colorist. But now when she's running for president of the United States, now all of a sudden Kamala Harris is the most blackest black woman on planet Earth. Make it make sense. Make it make motherfucking sense. You can't. You can't. One of my big issues is that we don't want to claim that these women are our enemies, even though they are, even though they show us on a regular basis that they're our enemies. I mean, the whole reason that these conversations even happened online, where black men came online, is because we felt it. I don't think we would have labeled it that way back then. It was bad attitudes. It was the kids out of wedlock. You know what I mean? It was for some, the weaves, just brothers not liking that, women with the hair hats and stuff, and the self hatred that nobody would label as self hatred. Um, what else? Um, and just the overall, just the matriarchy, the tone, the condescension, we're better than you, we're levitating above you. Like, I remember that shit in the early 2000s. It's been that way. You know what I mean? It was always all our black men are in jail. Like all those shows in the 90s of why are black women single? It was all because black men are in jail. And black men, the majority of black men are not in jail. No, the issue is that 1/3 of black men have a felony conviction, and then that only further contributes to the matriarchy because that 1/3 of black men are not economically viable, right? But like I said, black women try to act like they're victims. They're victims to that. But every drug dealer you can think of, he got either a girl or multiple baby mamas. You know what I mean? Like the men that are engaged in illegal activities have no shortage of women. Hell, I mean, you got women that are in universities and end up getting deleted because they get into a fight with Pookie with the tattoos on his neck. Remember those two sisters that got deleted at Texas A&M? At the end of the day, these women do not respect us. It's not even like a base level, respect. I'm not saying that you don't have. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that it's each and every black woman out here, because it's not. Because you got some black women that are ride or die, black women, and then you got your chameleons, you got your fakers, you got your manipulators. Okay, you got your, she has it in her mind that she's going to do X for you, but that's basically the extent of it. You know what I mean? She whatever, uses her resources and whatnot. And again, they capitalize on guys that typically don't have it together. And a lot of you all fall for the okey doke, you thinking that she's being down and whatnot. And once you accept, you know what I'm saying? Once you sign that contract with the devil, she's got you by the balls. And then not only does she have you by the balls, not only are you setting yourself up to be emasculated, then even though she playing the whole shit out, she's gonna come to the internet or she's gonna go to her little girlfriend powwows and she's gonna talk about how she was done wrong by a black man. Going back to what Love Dorsey said. How these women go out of their way, to go in, and they don't want a Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson makes their flaws bubble right to the surface. Okay, they already feel insecure and got inferiority complexes about being a black woman in Western society and Western civilization, and so they feel good by elevating themselves over a black man. I've seen this with sisters like you got sisters out here. They'll be in the hood. They love to brag about how they got an associate's degree. Stand them next to a brother that got a master's or a doctorate or a PhD. They get real quiet. They don't like the way it feels because the whole narrative has been to not elevate black women via femininity and beauty because feminists will tell you that that's weakness. That's weakness, right? This is why you have that black women are running around with the sprinkle sprinkle. But see, it's even framed wrong because it's framed as it's black women's fault that it's black men's fault that black women cannot enjoy white womanhood or white femininity or be in a position where they have some parity with the femininity of all other races of women, right? And part of the problem with that is if your men are marginalized and your men don't have the infrastructure, the media machine, and everything else, they don't have the ability to put you up there, like that outside of what you see on social media. And I'm not saying that black men don't have their own inferiority complexes or aspects of self hate. But there's also aspects of black men not particularly liking or caring for black women because the fantasy of the feminine woman, they can't put a black woman in that box because they've been taught and told and trained that black women don't go in that box because they're strong and they're independent and they're all that. But then you have this weird like schizophrenia with black women where they want to be, put in that box at least for a moment. It's like where you hear black women say the only place that she wants to be dominated is in the bedroom, but nowhere else. Nowhere else does she want to be dominated. But then in the other argument, she'll walk around bitching about how, there's no black men for her to hypergamously date. It's like with black women, hypergamy is desired symbolically because the only way a woman gets validated is for her to date up. This is why you see all this shit with Sky Jackson and all this shit with Haley Bailey, or all the stuff with who else Nicki Minaj, all right, or Kiki Palmer, right? That's why all these women are bitching about how black women are dating down and whatnot, and they're trying to make like draw parallels between them, and they see, yeah, that's what all other black women are out here do because we don't have any choices. So you're gonna tell me that Sky Jackson didn't have a choice, that Kiki Palmer didn't have a choice when Steve Harvey was like, hey, I got some guys for you because you don't need to be dating down. He tried to hook her up. She went in the direction that she went. These women are doing what they want to do. They want to do what they want to do on their terms. They don't want to engage in patriarchy. And there's no honesty about that online when it comes to black women. Even if I waved the magic wand and had black men that are balling out of control and could be the ultimate patriarchs, the majority of black women, I dare say, they don't want that because of what comes with it. The whole he's outshining her, she's playing second fiddle. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it would click over overnight. I don't think, like, when it comes to black women that have these inferiority complexes that have like shifted their gears instead of being valued as, feminine, women and wives and mothers and shit. They want to be these strong, independent black women like Robin Givens in Boomerang. Like, that's who they want to be, and they can't be that and be pedestal at the same time. And their argument is, why the hell not? Why can't you thirst me and I pull my dick out and lay it on your forehead at the same time? How come you men aren't desirous of women who pull their dicks out and lay it across your forehead? Because it's not attractive. It's not attractive, right? You know what I mean? You all are intimidated by a woman who has success. You all are dating down. Men are supposed to date down. That's how you get hypergamy. That's how you get, the man's providing, for the woman and whatnot, right? It's relative. But see, they're not being honest about that. They don't want it. And this is where, going back to the days of old conversations with Captain Solo, this is why it's important to be there regardless. Because as long as brothers aren't there, the argument becomes what? The argument becomes that black men are not there. So therefore, everything falls apart. You're not in a position to provide. What is there for me to get with? You see? That's the whole problem with not being in the position, despite the fact that you're 100% right that they ain't about to get with shit. But you still got to be in the position to offer it in order to point out and expose the fact that they ain't about to get with shit. But again, we've seen enough of these women who have avoided men who do have their shit together. And what the women try to do is they try to use the collective position of black men, right? The masses of black men to justify why they're not going to get with an individual black man who's successful. They try to use a collective reputation to argue why they're not going to get with this black man that stands before them. That's like a black man saying that I got a black woman who's fit and feminine right in front of me. She goes to the gym 5 times a week, but I'm going to then use and say that 80% of black women are overweight and 60% are obese, and therefore because that number is so terrible, the black woman that's 145 pounds, built like, Kathy Freeman Drayton, that's why I can't date her. It makes no sense. No, it's because They want to maintain and preserve the idea that, black men are the problem, and black women are just this innocent population, of victims. Again, when we get into these conversations, because when these women are by themselves, they could be ratchet, they could be out there acting like sexy red, and like that's who they could be, and by themselves, twerking on tables at restaurants in Atlanta, right? Going on their girl trips, right? That's who they can be. But when we get into these conversations of why they're not married, then all of a sudden they're going to try to act like they're fainting Victorian virgins from the 1880s. All of a sudden, they're women from Gone with the Wind, right? In the antebellum South, right? And they're women of God, right? Bullshit. This is what we deal with. And again, while people like Professor Black Truth want to keep it all pro blackity black and just move the conversation forward and talk about how they're sisters that are allies. Yes, black women will get behind you if you're talking about white supremacy and the foul shit that white supremacy does to the collective of black people. But when you get into conversations talking about male leadership and patriarchy, that's where the shit falls apart. And people like Professor Black Truth, who I think, he's like got to be like in his 50s or close to his 60s. I don't know. People are saying he's older. And same with Black Authority. Whatever. They're Gen Xers. Okay? And they're not really paying attention to what's going on the ground. Black Authority a little bit more, but they're not paying attention to what's going on the ground. This is what's going on the ground. And you just saying, well, we're just going to move the conversation along. No, again, I say it for the umpteenth time. I say it like Kevin Samuels took from me and said, the family unit is the fundamental unit of any community. If the relationships between black men and black women are not sound, you can hang it up. You can hang it up. Forget about talking about what we're going to do as a community. You don't have a household. You don't have households in your community. So you can forget about concepts of black empowerment. Again, going to what Professor Black Truth likes to talk about, the manufactured gender war and everything, and the white supremacy is coming through and throwing gasoline on the fire. Of course they are, because they recognize if your family unit is not there, then you can forget about moving forward, in the community. But there's too many single moms, point blank, period. Even if you're going to talk about what you're going to do for the black community and correct it, the first thing that's going to come up, you're going to have a freaking just hordes of women coming at you talking about what they specifically need for their children. And that is going to overshadow any conversation about black men being in a position to be able to provide for a family, to being in an economic position. Anything focused on black men and the resources that black men need are going to go to, an argument about how women are mothers and they're the households and they have the kids. And so therefore they should be prioritized because they're raising children. And we're going to use children for the bleeding heart argument that grown ass men, they need to go out there and get it themselves. And even if we could organize to get resources allocated to the black community, it shouldn't go to men. When even though the primary problem in the black community is that the black men are not in a position to provide for their families and provide stability and build and maintain the infrastructure of the community. That is the number one problem. The number one problem. Even if black women were going to get with the program, you still have to have men in that type of position. The money is still important in the hands of black men. Okay, y'all want to play around with these gender fluidity dynamics and all the different ways that you can have family and everything. That is not working. That is not working. For further evidence, I direct you to the conditions of a black community nearest you. It is not working. But yet, arguments will be made that we can operate in these alternatives, both in the multi-partner family formation where resources and legacies and generational wealth are all over the fucking place, right? Or the idea that we can have families in the black community that are matriarchal as opposed to patriarchal, and we can somehow produce the same outcome that other patriarchal communities are producing. And this is type of nonsense that is put forth, and it's all packaged and wrapped underneath that feminist agenda that true black empowerment goes through feminism, not through black male empowerment, not through black patriarchy, but through feminism. And so, as a black man, I look at black women, I'm like, these women that harbor these sorts of feminist ideologies and sentiments, they are the enemy. They are the enemy. And for some reason, we don't want to say that. We just do not want to say it and call it like it is. We want to sit there and be like, oh, if we, use nice words and big vocabulary and say a bunch of sweet nothings, that these women are going to get their bitch act right together. It's not what's going to happen. They don't want what you're offering. Like I said before, a diamond encrusted passenger seat is still a passenger seat. The steering wheel is not on that side of the car. It doesn't matter how nice you make it. A woman who seeks power, it does not matter how nice you make the passenger seat. It does not matter. She'll bitch. You put a white girl in that passenger seat, she's gonna be bitching up a storm. The irony is she still doesn't want to be in that passenger seat. She wants the symbolism of what that passenger seat represents, but she doesn't want the dynamics of what comes with being in that passenger seat. And so this is where you get into all we get to operate with different alternatives and everything else. I think it is extremely important to recognize or understand that before you engage in policies and what you're going to do and everything else, you got to have an honest conversation about what type of structure is your community going to be. Is it going to be a matriarchy? Is it going to be a patriarchy? Is it going to be, the nonsense of fake ass egalitarianism where nobody wants to define what roles are, right? Where women jump in and out of, their roles, some black men too. You know what I mean? Where they don't feel like doing something, and then all of a sudden they'll say that we were operating on egalitarianism. And it's like, that's not what that person signed up for. They didn't sign up for egalitarianism. They signed up for patriarchy, or they signed up for matriarchy. You have men that willingly sign up for matriarchy, and then you have women that eventually they get tired of carrying the motherfucker, and then next thing you know, they want to come online and bitch about dust. Dust, like that clip of that woman that I used, and I thought that shit was hilarious, where she was talking about vodka versus orange juice. You know why you like vodka. You know what I mean? The vodka, it has all the properties of vodka. And you know why you like orange juice. But vodka does not have all the benefits, the nutritional benefits of orange juice. So why are you over there when vodka is, as she said, vodka-ing, okay, when vodka is doing the vodka thing, right, getting you drunk and you having all type of fun and a good time with vodka. Oh yeah, but vodka is going to make you fat. Vodka got a bunch of calories in it. Vodka might get you caught up and get you a DUI. Orange juice doesn't do any of that. But orange juice ain't going to give you a buzz. Orange juice ain't going to get you high, right? There's nothing particularly fun about drinking orange juice, but orange juice, is it refreshing? Yes. Is a glass of cold orange juice, is it a wonderful in the morning? Absolutely. But it doesn't have the properties of vodka. And the thing is you got all these people out here that they want to renegotiate the terms of the relationship mid-relationship. It just depends on what's going on at the time. Oh, I want to be a strong, independent black woman. I don't want no man telling me to do nothing. I don't want no man telling me what to do. And then mid-relationship, boom, clicks over, and now all of a sudden you want to be taken care of. You want to be a princess. Sprinkle, sprinkle. You know what I'm saying? I know this because I've seen my own mother engage in this practice. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there, I'm like, but you wanted to be in the driver's seat though. I don't know why you bitching. You wanted to. I'm your son, and I'm looking at you, and you wanted to be in the driver's seat. Why are you bitching? Why are you bitching? Why all of a sudden now all of a sudden you want patriarchy? You see? And what a lot of black women do not understand, the benefit that we have as black men over you all is the fact that we were raised by you all. We know who you are. Notice this. Look, here's the receipts. Notice in the African American community, you see videos like Mothers Be Like, right? And it's usually the black woman with the bonnet, making some ridiculous demand, you know what I mean? Just busting in your room, telling you about some shit that you gotta do, just being irritable just to be irritable, right? That is the depiction of the black mother. Notice there ain't no videos in the black community about black fathers be like. If there ain't a whole bunch of them. There's way more black mothers be like videos. But you know who makes the black male black fathers be like? You know who makes those videos? The Africans. The Africans. The Africans make the videos of the African father coming in, you know what I mean? Or they got a couple videos about the African mother, but you know what the African mother's videos are about? Uh Praise Jesus, my son cut his hair, right? Or oh my God, you got a tattoo. Oh, and then all the, he's a drug dealer, he's a gangster, it's such a problem. Oh, we're so ashamed. That's the videos that you hear coming from the Africans. And then the fathers, usually it's like a B plus. That's a problem, right? That's what you hear from the Africans. And granted, yes, we know the Africans don't have the history that African Americans have. They grow up in an environment where, yes, neocolonialism is there, white supremacy is way off back on the mountaintop in the shadows and whatnot. But by and large, okay, they grow up in societies where they aren't bombarded, with things that are going to facilitate self-hatred. Where in the black African American community, we have, decades of prolonged exposure to poverty, marginalization, again, cartoons, made about us and all other type of shit, that negative portrayals, all that stuff, crap you see in the news, right? That's what we have to deal with. But I'm just saying, black men have the advantage because they know black women's behavior. They know what you all do. So when they see it with their black female peers, women that they're dating or interested in or interacting with, we immediately see it. We immediately know what it is. Black women come through with a whole bunch of speculation. If your daddy wasn't there, how you gonna know? How you know how a man operates if your daddy wasn't there? How do you know what he is or isn't doing or is or isn't about to do? It's all predicated on these myths. These myths. And then again, when you got these women out here only wanting a particular, showcased and promoted type of black man that's in the streets, and then they go and they get pregnant by him. Again, like I said before, can you believe I ran out of space? I'll take that as a sign. But like I was saying, um, black men are way more familiar with the behaviors of black women than black women are black men. It's all just speculation. It's all just ideas and concepts. It starts off in a negative place. Black men's perception of black women doesn't start off in a negative place. It's what we learn. It's what we recognize with the dynamics of our own mothers. It's what we see with this the sisterhood type of behavior. So we recognize that. And when it comes to us, not particularly caring for it, not particularly liking it, this is where you get the, black men becoming more and more estranged for black women. They're just like, yo, I'm not dealing with it. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you my discipline. I don't owe you resources because went off and you were dealing with the guy you shouldn't have been dealing with. And anybody could have told you you shouldn't have been dealing with him. Many of these men that these women deal with, and it's not a surprise. That's the beauty about the situations that you see with these women that are getting these celebrity black women that are getting pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of these women were coerced. They weren't forced into those situations. You know what I mean? They're rubbing shoulders with people. They have access to people that a chick in the hood doesn't have access to. And you still see what they're picking. You see what they're picking. You see what they're attracted to. This has nothing to do. Oh, there's not enough choices. There's not enough to pick for. Bullshit. Bullshit. Even when a black woman is successful, they will go out of their way and go and pick what they're comfortable with. Or in the case of Sky, and even Haley Bailey, you know what I mean? I'm like, you came from, a good home. You got two parents and stability and shit. Especially with Haley, God fearing and all that, going to church and whatnot, and you want to see what the streets are like. You want some excitement in your life. And the thing is like when it comes to sisters, it would just be great if they would just own that instead of every decision they make, every poor decision they make. Let me be specific. Every poor decision they make is the direct result of because either black men didn't put something together, there aren't enough good black men, or because black men are the problem. Not they're actually seeking out situations that they shouldn't be seeking out. If they were really the women that they claim, that the idealized version of the type of woman that they claim that they, want to be or want to be seen as. You know what I'm saying? Like how do you link up with a dude that isn't a reflection of where you see yourself or I guess how you see yourself is this weird situation where okay, so you're going to go off and be this highfalutin Hasidity corporate black woman doing big things, but the dude that you're with is gonna be the dude with the sleeve tattoo and the chains and the and just looking like he's from the streets. We keep seeing example after example, and the beautiful thing now, again, like I've said before, is that we have the internet. The internet is giving us like the receipts are crazy. The receipts are all over the place. Before it was just speculation, but now for the first time, black women's behavior in particular, because we're having these black conversations, right? And white men, they're off on showcasing the same thing. It's on full display. Things that men didn't know before because women were protected. Women's image was protected. And now, because women wanted to be free and demonstrate their freedom, now we see, who these women are, how they actually think, how they process things, the tactics that they actually do, the manipulation that they actually do, right? And so now that that's out there, when we speak on, these issues and the things that we don't like, this is not just coming out of the void. This is, coming out of actual understanding, actual research, actual, observation. And yet, and still, these women want to come online and argue with us as though it's still like the 1990s or something, as though we're running off of just as much stereotype as black women are running off of. Like, no, I'm not. This isn't a stereotype. I'm going off of the things that came out of your mouth. You know what I mean? I didn't say, black women just come out and say, I treat men that have money and men that don't have money the same. No, that was Amy Loho, right? I didn't say, I don't mind allowing a man to believe that he's in control. That was a black woman, right? I didn't say, anytime a man has more than what I got going on, I gotta reevaluate myself. I didn't say that. Black woman said that, right? A black man can't do anything without the strength of a black woman. I didn't say that. A black woman said that. I mean, we got receipts for days. No, we got receipts for over a decade. So I'm not going to sit around and let somebody gaslight me on what I know to be true. So anyway, with that said, I'm done with this video. I know I kind of went off on the side a little bit, but the relationship dynamics are extremely important. And, it's not talked about enough, in my opinion, when it comes to the idea of the concepts of black empowerment. It's like the people want to leave it at the door, like Malcolm X wanted to leave religion at the door, because what you're being discriminated against is because you're black. You're not being discriminated against because of your religion. And I understand why they want to do that, but at the same time, I'm like, if we don't see eye to eye on what our roles are, gender wise, and what the idea of what a black family is supposed to look like, and what those roles are underneath that umbrella, I don't see the point in sitting around talking about black community, black community, black community. If truly at the end of the day, what we want as black men and what black women want is as black women are two different things. I think it's a waste of time. And I know what that means if we truly do want different things. I know what that means. But we need to be honest about that before we, dive in there and, oh yeah, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that, and we're going to get black women to give up being the teacher's pet. We're going to get them to give up their privilege and their elevation, right? And the non-threatening, space that they've been given until white supremacy decides otherwise. You see? So anyway, with that said, that's all I'm going to say for now. That's my video, SWPL. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
This is who you marry, huh? You got to know your partner. So you married Vodka, right? You knew what Vodka did when you married it. You know what I'm saying? You knew this, the purpose of Vodka. You know why you were attracted to Vodka. You married Vodka. Now, when Vodka start acting, Vodka King, you like thinking that Vodka's supposed to be this orange juice. Sweetie, you didn't marry this. You didn't marry orange juice.
Help the people.
Help the people. Listen, you have to know your partner.
Come on.
You didn't marry orange juice, my love. So the properties that this has, this don't have it. So when you're like, hey, how come you don't have emotional intelligence? You didn't marry emotional intelligence.
Come on now.
Huh? Okay. So now you mad. What? How come you still have childhood trauma? You knew I had that before, right? You're expecting this to be this. It's never going to be this. Can this be purified? Absolutely. Can this change its property if you add some love into it? If you add some peace into it? If you give it some grace? If you add the Holy Spirit, right? It can, right, be perfect for you. But stop expecting what you have to be what you don't.
Period.
And scene.
And that is a word from Jael the
And that
Great.
is a
Follow
word.
her on all social